Mr. Triplett, what does the Bible say about a lake of fire?
I think that God has given me some very simple understanding about that. One day I was asked to meet with a couple of Reno contractors to discuss some things, and while we were waiting to be seated, we sat at the bar. These guys are not Christians, but they're very patriotic and opinionated. And it was like 7 years ago. The war on terror was raging. They were brothers. One brother said to the other brother, "We ought to quit pussyfooting around over there in Iraq. Those cities like Fallujah, Ramallah, and Baghdad, they're nothing but infestations of terrorist nests." In his opinion, he said, "We ought to go over there and just drop nuclear bombs on those cities and wipe them out and quit pussyfooting around." I thought he was sounding a little radical for me, but this brother agreed with him, and he said in response, "Yeah, we should turn their whole flippin' country into a sea of glass." Because the understanding is the intense 10 million degree balls of fire that nuclear bombs are melts the sand into glass. And we know the country has got a lot of sand. And so I just kind of remembered that conversation that evening. As I came home, I was in a recliner watching some news when a Geico lizard ad came on, which I detest. I don't like my mind being taken down, captivated, and put thoughts in it I don't care about. So I picked up my Bible to just open it briefly, and behold, unbelievable words that I saw that I had read before. It was Revelation 15. And it says that heaven opened, and John, who wrote the book of Revelation, saw a marvelous sign. And he tells you what he saw. He says, "I saw what looked like a sea of glass mixed with fire." And I go, wow, John, they were just talking about these nuclear bombing our enemy cities and turning their country into a sea of glass, and these guys don't read the Bible. But I go, but that's exactly what the Bible's talking about. It's nuclear. And so I read it. I saw a sea of glass mixed with fire, and standing beside the sea are those who had been victorious over the beast and his image and over his name. It's the victory. The beast of Revelation 13, it says, who can make war against the beast? Well, the beast is this multinational coalition army of 200 million. And you know what an army of 200 million is? That, my friend, is a button-pushing problem. And I now understand clearly that John saw those who have been victorious over the beast and the beast's army, and they held harps or musical instruments given to them, and they sang the song of Moses and the servant of God and the song of the Lamb. And these are the words: "Great and marvelous are your deeds, Lord God Almighty. Just and true are your ways. O King of the ages, who will not fear you, O Lord, and bring glory to your name? For you alone are holy. All nations will come and worship before you, for your righteous acts have been revealed." So here's what the lake of fire is. It's nuclear devastation of all of our enemies. That's exactly what Revelation 9 is talking about. When it mentions the army of 200 million, the next paragraph tells you that 1/3 of mankind were killed by 3 plagues of fire, smoke, and sulfur. I go, 1/3 of mankind's over 2 billion people. Another peculiar thing, information I came across was a couple of military experts on a panel were mentioning about how our special forces were stymied in Afghanistan and that they did not know what the number of Afghanistan's army was because they have no intelligence, and Americans cannot infiltrate the Afghan society because we stick out like sore thumbs. But they made this interesting statement. Well, we do know that in all of military history, no nation has ever formed an army greater than 10% of its overall general population. You have women, you have children, you have old people, sick people, you have cowards, you have professional people who are needed on their jobs. So 10% is the maximum amount of an army of any nation according to military history. With that knowledge, having been equipped with that knowledge, I began to realize an army of 200 million, as staggering an amount as that is, coincidentally amounts to about 10% of the third of the world's population, which is going to be killed. Which brought me to this conclusion. Not only will we see this army, a staggering numbers of 200 million, we will see it completely annihilated and destroyed, but not only will the army be annihilated and destroyed, but the entire populations of the nations that formed that army are going to be completely destroyed. And that is the only way mankind will see 1,000 years of uninterrupted peace on earth that is coming, called the New Age or the New Millennium. Because were you to only destroy the army of 200 million, the nations that formed that army will have mothers and fathers and little brothers and those who still despise you, and another generation will come to pass that you will have to deal with again and again, and it will never end. But we're being told that war will come to an end. In Daniel chapter 9, it says war will continue to the end. But when we reach the end, we will see the war end when all of our enemies are completely destroyed and totally annihilated. And it will be in a nuclear lake of fire.